Since we did not meet for our vertical PLC meeting, I decided to do a digital PLC with you guys today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our agenda for this session is that we look at our benchmark data from the mock EOGs. We develop a plan of action for our students, and we also just take a moment to reflect on what we have accomplished this year and to begin to prepare on how we want to improve for the next year. So, in your email, I also sent student data and other documents that you will need for this session. So I want you to take some time to look at your students' data. For example, you will look at your students, you will look at the percent correct and also their projected achievement level for the EOG. Once you do that, you begin to make a list of students that met proficiency. You will look at the students that are still those level ones and twos that you will have to create a remediation plan. Not only looking at the student reports such as this, but I will also have you to look at the reports with the standards. What standards are students still continue to struggle with? And what standard do students have a good grasp on? You will need to look at that in order to develop your plan as well. So once you have that, you're going to determine those students again that have reached proficiency and those that have not. And you are going to type it in this shared document. So as I open it up, I want you to make sure that you look at the top, make a copy of this document and rename it because you do not want anyone to delete your information and type over it, and include the grade level and the subject. For example, I have it by blocks, block 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I also have an example of you have students at level 5, 4, 3, 2. I want you to insert the names in the documents. And as you go through, this will help you group your students in your classroom accordingly. When you go down, you will see a section that says a plan of action. This is what you're going to be using in the classroom for your remediation and for your enrichment. I will ask that you will be as detailed as possible, including standards you want to focus on and strategies you will be using in order to teach those standards. So again, I have an example for remediation. If the students are having problems with making inferences, you might want to pull off small groups for that and review and reteach inferences. You might want to use SchoolNet. You might want to use that mock EOG test. You may want to use other samples of text to help you with that. For enrichment, you may want the students to come together and read a particular text. And from those DOK questions, stems, you will have them create questions that will go along with that text and then exchange and have that conversation. They can have that conversation with each other about how they came to those responses that they use based off of another group's questions. So I want you to put this in that plan of action. This will be for ELA, this will be for math, and it will be for science and social studies. Now, I know you don't, science and social studies, except for 8th grade, don't have data to display, but you have scores and grades that you have on your students. And you can still make a list of those students that you think are within that level 3 to 5 and levels 1 and 2, and put it in a document for our PLC purposes and for your purposes of where you plan to go with those particular blocks, where you plan to go with the it may be for the whole entire for every one of your blocks. So even though you may not have a benchmark test that you can go off of, you can still use your classroom data to create and put inside this document that I want for next week, by the way, to turn in. So once you have done that, you've created your plan, make sure that you send me a copy of it so that I can have it for PLC purposes, and that you can also have it to go by in the next few weeks to help you plan out your review for EOG, and how you want your next few weeks to go as far as your classroom activities and strategies. So the next portion, real quick, is for math only. We will have some new revised standards for the upcoming year. One of the things that I want you to make sure to look at are the major changes for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, making sure that you look to see if there is major changes or if it still has some of those components from the Common Core standards. Because many of them, when I was looking at it, just had, they were rewritten. It still had the same components, but it was bulleted. A lot of the standards are now bulleted, where it used to be like A, B, C, and D. It's more like bullet points, and it helps to make it more clear and concise to the teachers that will be teaching those standards. So make sure you take a look at that. Make sure you take a look at the instructional frameworks for math as well. And basically, when you look at it, it gives you a timeline of what standard to teach and how long it should be taught from the beginning to the end. So, for example, the first week is just teaching students problem-solving strategies. Then the next one, it goes into the geometry standards, which should be take about 2 weeks. So you will want to make sure you look at that. And when the math team gets back together, we'll discuss on how that's going to look with illustrative math and those open up resources that you have used this week. So I just want you to make sure that you look through those documents as far as the changes in math, in the math standards. So this is it for this PLC session. Make sure that you have the documents, the plans of actions turned back into me by next week, which will be by May 9th. And if you do need suggestions or help, or need some things that you want me to look over, please shoot me an email of a time that we can meet together to discuss. However, make sure you have this plan of action completed by May 9th. Have a great day.